will not be joining us. So you guys are in charge.
Oh, that's dangerous. Still muted, Vera.
Still muted.
We need an acting chair to run this meeting.
Is this your last official activity?
She doesn't stop. She may still be be working for us like remotely from North Carolina. We you know, it's like because the brain is going full speed to the very end.
Because of COVID, I have not gotten that's really sucked it out of me. I missed 2 days last week. I've not made it full days this week yet. So I've actually, that's changed all of my plans, and I'm not going to officially move until 13th. Thank you. Right? But I was supposed to travel down there to close on my house, and now that's all going to be handled remotely. My brother-in-law is going to do the inspections because I just can't travel. So I'm actually going to, I think, probably change my official last day with the town to next Friday, but my hours next week will be very limited just to kind of wrap stuff up. And so
these things just hit you at the worst time, don't they?
They really do. I was hoping it was just a cold, and it was not.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
Well, I think, is there a department head that hasn't had this past 2 weeks?
So yeah, I do think it really is going around right now. Like, everyone asked me where I got it, and it just became, we have narrowed it down. We actually think it was one of my best friend's kids. I went over to help her husband because she was out of town, and she's like, I called apologetic. I'm like, I think I exposed your kids. She's like, no, I think my kids exposed you. I was like, oh, okay.
I think that the sort of philosophy of how people think about it is changing quite a lot, because like a year ago, we would have said prom was a super spreader event because they had 85 kids out of school last week, mostly due to catching it at prom. But there was virtually no discussion about that. It was just like, oh.
No, I think it's just, it's, I think as long as the severity of the infection and, the it continues to go down, then it's going to be seen more like the flu then.
Yeah, which was never fun, by the way.
No. So anyway,
the COVID is definitely not fun. Yeah. I've seen it with you, Linda, and my daughters. It stinks to be sick. I don't want to be sick. That's what, and I can't be sick right now. Sorry, but there's no time.
That's what I said. So you better find some wood to knock on, Jen, because that was what I said, and it didn't matter.
Anyways.
Yep. Moving on.
So who's going to run the meeting today?
Well, I can call it to order at.
All right, thanks, Vera.
Okay, Vera Ward calls it to order at 10:10, I guess. 10:11 a.m. And we have approval of the minutes of April 13th. And were we both there for it? Yes. So do you want to make a motion, Luann?
Sure, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes from April 13th as written.
I second it, and it's approved, I imagine, yes?
Yep.
Okay. So then on to the cannabis establishments and all the surveys and whatever else, handling the.
So the one of the reasons I wanted to have this, and I think unfortunately, since Paul can't be here, we will probably not do item B. That was his request. He did text me back and ask, could we move this to later today? It's like, no.
No.
I have not responded to him. And I apologize. I had enough in me to remember that we had to post and file the agenda on the website and with the town clerk, but not enough to remember to send the packet out to you. So I apologize. That's why you didn't get it until this morning. But we did put the cannabis survey that we had reviewed with you a couple of months ago out to the public. We kept it up for the entire month of May. I actually don't even know if we've shut it down now. I have to figure out how to do that on SurveyMonkey. And we sent out a postcard, I want to say mid-May. And I will say we had probably about 100 responses from when it was first publicized on the website. And then we saw a dramatic peak as soon as those postcards hit mailboxes. So
I say there was almost 500, right?
we're at 630,
Yeah.
630. So, you know, as Luann said earlier, you know, it's not by any means the population of the town of Mansfield, but at the same time, I think we're getting better participation with these surveys than we would if we had said, oh, we're going to have a meeting on a Wednesday night to talk about this. So you have the survey and you have two versions. I did download this morning just the latest results that we had. So you can see, you know, and I'm not a SurveyMonkey expert, so I kind of just went through and said, okay, give me what you have. Generally speaking, you know, on the first question, in terms of should the various types of establishments be permitted, the blue bar means yes. And I'm gonna, let me see if it would help to share my screen.
I have it up if well.
Yeah, I just needed to move it to my other screen. It just makes it easier that way. So, all right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep. So so the first question, should the following types of cannabis marijuana establishments be, and the two options were prohibited or permitted. And so sales of adult use, sales of medical, manufacturing and packaging, delivery services, and then laboratories to analyze. Blue bars are people who believe those uses should be permitted, and green is prohibited. So overwhelmingly, you know, overwhelming support for allowing these types of uses in Mansfield, generally speaking. The second page gives you the percentages. So the highest support came for sales of medical marijuana, with 520 out of 626 people saying yes under certain, and we did say permitted under certain conditions. So not, this wasn't a free for all, it was that we would attach conditions to it. And then the lowest support was the manufacturing and packaging of cannabis and marijuana products, and that was at 68%. So the second question was, this was where we started to say, okay, the next series of questions are looking at various zoning districts that you had identified and saying, would you support these different types of cannabis uses there? And so, you know, what you're generally seeing is it looks like the strongest support for medical marijuana was in the Plan Business 1 and Plan Business 3 zones. Still generally high, I would say, for the other zones that we offered, which essentially were the two zones downtown, both the special design district as well as the Plan Business 2, which is a few out parcels like Stores Commons, University Plaza, King Hill Road, and Perkins Corner also received some support. So, you know, that gives you kind of an idea. Again, PB1, PB3 were in the 68-69%, whereas others were in more in the 50s in terms of where we should allow medical marijuana. So adult use, this list was narrowed down even further. And again, PB1 and PB3 definitely had the strongest support, with a lower percentage for Perkins Corner, and then the smallest amount for King Hill Road area. And even that was at 51% thought it should be allowed there.
Why do you think they don't think King Hill would be a good spot, do you suppose?
I don't know. You know, I don't know if people thought it was too close to So King Hill Road, I can look at two things. One, it's very close to the university, so people may have said, oh, maybe this is not a good place to put it. It's also on the edge of the university and residential neighborhoods. So, and has, as opposed to Plan Business 1, Plan Business 3, Plan Business 5, you have arterial roads going through there, whereas with King Hill Road, it's essentially local roads. And even if they're collectors, it's more local. So people might be looking at that from a traffic standpoint and saying, you know what, no, we don't want to encourage that type of traffic in this area, given that neighborhood edge, as well as just the automobile traffic that could come with it.
I also suspect people just aren't as familiar with that area,
Maybe
because
so.
to be perfectly honest, before joining the PZC, having lived here, still like 20 years, I didn't even know where it was.
Where's King Hill Road?
Yeah, I didn't know where it was.
My husband even walks that road. He walks to work almost every day, and he didn't know that was King Hill Road. Don't know the name.
Yeah, and it's just such a tiny little enclave, and right now it's closed, so you can't even really see what it would be, I think. So anyway.
And when we discussed this, did we really think we should put it at Four Corners with everything else that's going on there?
Yeah, that was these were the zones, and I think again, because those are your more intensive commercial areas. So
with
that
and
so we only offered them what you had basically were considering. We didn't. So for example, we didn't. You won't see any neighborhood business zones listed here, because that was something that the committee was not considering.
Or storage center.
Right. You're correct. So storage center is not on the adult use, because that was something that was taken off the table, given the proximity, I think, to the high school. Areas for manufacturing and packaging, same four options as adult use sales. And, this one, I think you had a lot of people skip this question when you look at this 375, 3 or 4. I think a lot of people skip this because they just don't know. They're like, what
does it really mean? Yeah.
What does it really mean? Again, you continue to see the three areas. King Hill Road is a little bit, it's fairly even in terms of when you look at the number of respondents on this. 619 answered it. So
I was thinking, only 11 skipped. So.
Yeah. So which ones?
Can you go back to that one just a second?
Yep.
I guess the question that I have when they're even like that is how many more people are answering none of the above? Like that percentage seems higher for this question than in other ones.
Yeah, so 192 people said none. So I think my guess is that anyone who said we shouldn't be allowing any of these uses is just saying none,
everything. Yeah,
none.
But this one seems a little higher, maybe. But maybe I'm
no, and I think that was, which goes along with, if we went back to the first slide, that was the one that had the lowest level of support in general. You can kind of see that was the so that may be why you're seeing a higher. You're right. None of the above definitely increased for this one, because people are going, we don't think you should have it. So the next one was, if you wanted to have a delivery service, we're seeing the same trend, and again, we only offered them 4 options. Downtown wasn't an option for this. None of the above was at about 26%. Perkins Corner, you're still seeing the same thing. Plan Business 1 seems to come out on top of every single one by a nose, kind of by a hair over PB3. Areas where you would support location of laboratories, again, same general distribution, with again Plan Business 1 a little bit above Plan Business 3. You have Perkins Corner, King Hill Road. So people, my guess is people generally, with the exception of that manufacturing and packaging, which I think people are like, I don't know what this is, are generally kind of looking at this, going, these are where we're thinking of it. So the next question, it does not have a nice chart because this is really a free form. And I just realized you're not getting the answers, so we can provide you with the answers to this. We'll download those and get them to you, but this is where people got to answer kind of on their own and say, this is what I'm thinking about. And I want to see, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I think I can actually, I might be able to just go into SurveyMonkey and bring those up for you. Okay, so I'm gonna try and I'm gonna share my screen again, and this time I'm just gonna kind of run through. So hopefully you can see this. So, 209 people responded to this. The first ones were just, no, I can't think of any place else you should allow it. Then you start to get into, cannabis we shouldn't be considering it. We have one person that said storage center. Somebody else was like, oh, we should be allowing this as home occupations throughout town. We should be allowing it in neighborhood business zones, any type of business zones. Someone who does not trust the Planning and Zoning Commission. And it basically does, again, so this is, you kind of have a mix here, and we'll provide the information, but I think this is where you get we don't want it anywhere, or we want it everywhere, is kind of the breakdown when you kind of scan through the comments. None, no,
Are people who answered no more likely to participate? Like, does that, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are the comments more skewed towards people who have very strong opinions against this?
I haven't gone through all of them. We'd have to go through, I kind of just scanned them. A lot of them seem to be saying, no, I don't have any other suggestions. This one is, one is like, hey, we really need to consider where we're put, separation from schools. So you kind of know everywhere, 195 towards Wellington Pizza, it's the one thing I will note on this, which I just realized, is we did have some requests for paper surveys, and I've got to find out from Sandy. So we'll have to get those responses in as well for people who did this via paper and didn't do it electronically. Some were just, this person was like, I'm not opposed to legalization of marijuana, but why not let, we shouldn't be doing it here. Let another town do this that's near us. The 3% isn't enough to take on the headache.
I want to smoke weed everywhere in Connecticut, please.
Yeah.
Use them.
Yep.
Or then there's the guy that says next to schools and churches.
Yeah, some people are sarcastic, and and then you have people who are like, okay, don't allow it within 4 blocks of any school serving students in pre-K through 12. So I'm like, those are the people who kind of took this, you're always going to have in surveys the people who are, this is a joke, I'm just going to put in.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Let's see.
Yeah. So this one seems to want Yukon We
There
should
seems-
negotiate with the state so that they can manufacture cannabis on state property.
Yeah, that one sort of seems to be both, you're not doing a good enough job with zoning and you're regulating too much at the same
Yeah,
time.
it's. These products would be welcomed by a lot of residents since the tranquility of this town has been sorely compromised. I was like, okay, so apparently
Okay,
they see a lot of need in Mansfield for recreational use. And it, again, see, this kind of breaks down to a lot of people just, it's like either everywhere or
nowhere.
you have a few that's like regulate, like we do alcohol. If you
Fair.
allow a package store, you should allow cannabis. And
There was one number, not 193 on my survey that says, after living in Colorado for years, after the legalizing and selling of marijuana, I moved up Colorado to Connecticut due to the increase of drug dealers and drug addicts. Anyway, Connecticut needs to learn from Colorado's mistakes, which made drug crime use tremendously decreased, I guess. There's a result of legalizing the selling of marijuana. Anyway, cautionary tale, I guess.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I mean, there's this is the individual response. I think we have another one where there's an individual response. This one was mainly, are there other areas we're supposed to
Mhm.
consider it?
And
And
so far, this hasn't really, when does this go into effect? I guess is my better question. So far, I don't think it has, right? There aren't any
well,
examples.
we have a moratorium, so you
No,
guys
know
have
that.
to.
I know that, but I mean, I'm thinking of other communities in Connecticut.
Other communities have already dealt with it, and I think they have the state is doing the first licensing now.
Yeah,
They've
that's what
accepted
I'm asking. I mean,
applications.
yeah, because I know a number of communities have just flat out banned it.
Yeah,
And many other are also struggling with the same kinds of issues that we are. But as far as I knew, no one has actually.
I don't
got
think
it
they've,
and adopted and.
yeah, they haven't issued licenses yet. I think they did the first solicitation.
Okay.
So, this is, I think a lot of places are, some people have banned it. Some are doing the moratorium and saying we need to take our time and figure this out.
Mhm.
So a lot of these comments, and again, we'll figure out how to get for some reason, I think it sounds like Vera, the first version I did from May 31st had comments, but the second one didn't, and I don't know what I did to make that happen.
I did get that packet a week ago or whenever.
Yeah. So, what types of conditions? That was something else that we asked for. In this case, I think the table is going to be more helpful. So, there's definitely, I would say, support for separation distance from schools, childcare,
Mhm.
separation distance from houses of worship and religious institutions. It is much lower. So you kind of see that the two things that people really kind of, I would say, related to and said, yeah, these are things we think should strongly be considered, is the separation from schools and childcare, in restricting operations to the same days and hours as alcohol sales. And that one had a more variation depending on the type of specific cannabis use, less support, but still some support for separation from houses of worship and hospitals. That was more kind of like a third or less of the folks who answered the question, but I would say definitely strong support for separation from schools, childcare, and limiting hours to be consistent as the same as alcohol. And then the other comments, I think, Vera, this is where they had two free form responses, comments, so, we have smell. I think one of the things that I think some of this is also going to be educating, is that
Mhm.
use, we're not talking about use here. The state's already determined that use is okay.
Right.
So, this is, they don't want people to smoke in public parks. I don't think we can regulate that. Like, I don't.
we have no smoking in parks.
Right. But
So-
it's how do you enforce it, I think is probably the
Right.
bigger.
I mean,
Well,
we can add in the code of ordinances, marijuana products,
Yeah, it's exactly like alcohol, which is also.
No,
right? No drinking, no smoking.
I get that, Jen. I guess what I'm saying is we can have the rule on the books, but unless you have the staffing and the enforcement personnel.
Trust me, I know about dogs in parks, and so, yeah, we need park rangers. That would be the only way, but at least we can have it on the books.
Yeah, well, and UConn too could do the same thing. They could also say it's not allowed, like they do with alcohol in
Yeah.
dorms or on campus, or smoking anywhere on campus, I think is also regulated. Because we have a very small strip of UConn land right behind our house. And there was a big rock there that people were using for all kinds of illegal drug use that we could see from our back windows. And so we would call the UConn cops and then have to convince them that, yes, indeed, it is your problem. And then they would deal with it, and they were very effective. So that's one thing.
So this is, the comments are definitely, either no, or a lot of are, please, take these things into consideration, and we'll make sure that you get all of these. I think the other thing we're going to have to do, and this is I've never used SurveyMonkey before, and so you'll see it on the next question. One of the questions we had has to do with age, and I think I should have put age ranges, because otherwise now we have like 600 responses of how old, how old they are, and we'll have to download that to Excel and see if we can make some sense out of it. But so we are seeing some that are saying we should be focusing on the campus population, and I think all of these, again, we'll find a way to get you all of these responses. And my suggestion would be that one of the next steps on this would be to kind of schedule a joint meeting with the town council to go through the results of the survey and what the commission's thinking before you draft regulations, so that everybody's kind of in the same, on board, if that makes any sense. And that'll give, by doing that in a public meeting, anyone who didn't participate in the survey can also come out and speak publicly as to what they feel. But there's definitely,
Remind me when the moratorium ends, Linda.
I think it's December. I think
December.
the goal would be
Yeah.
to get this done long before then. We
Yeah.
knew we weren't going to make March, so we extended it. But it's, there's definitely, there are a lot of folks here, especially in the freeform comments, that are concerned with cannabis use just in general, and I think probably aren't happy with Connecticut's decision. And so now it's can we control it in Mansfield? And so I think this is, you've gotten feedback, so now it's going to be what do you want to do with the feedback? And so again, I think having a discussion, joint meeting with the commission and the council may be worthwhile, to just say, okay, here's what we're thinking, here's where we are. And to Jen's point, maybe there are things the council can do with the code of ordinances. So zip code, this is one, again, that I probably should have put in zip codes, but I didn't. So we can, we'll have to do an Excel dump for that to see where people live. For the most part, it does look like most of it is the 2 zip codes that make up Mansfield. Age-wise, we'll do the same thing. But just looking through this, I would say I don't think we have a large number of the younger group, younger population. Definitely seems to be an older age range that participated in the survey.
Well, it probably didn't go out to the younger ones,
And that was an issue. I know our communications person indicated that she had requested that this be in the UConn Daily Digest, and they basically was told no, that this is not something that's appropriate for that electronic publication. So yeah, we don't know how many students really saw this. So,
Well, you would assume that students would be more pro
yeah,
sale of adult use of marijuana. That's an assumption, right? But so we got the residents, so and we saw that they're mostly in favor for many of these things with concerns, right? They want guardrails on this, but I think that's how to present it to the council. You know, we can survey this to the end of time. It's very hard for us to do mailings to on the campus, and you know, so I think it feels like we got a lot of good response, that we know where we want to put what, and you know, I think this is really good. These are really good results. I mean, it was a robust survey. We have robust data in which to form zoning regulations and kind of go to the council.
so, and I think that this also really shows the bulk of people who responded were Mansfield residents, you know, and we, you know, I think I may have seen at least one response that was like, oh, I'm thinking about moving to Mansfield. You know, so we'll get the few paper surveys. I don't know if we've gotten any back in the mail. I know we had at least one couple that stopped in and asked for a printed copy that they filled out here. So we'll get those results and get everything to the full commission. So, but we wanted to at least share that with you guys, with everyone, and so you could see, you know, where we are on this, because I think you're starting to get some direction on where to go in terms of the regulations themselves.
So I have a question, because it's going to be you and me, folks, next, for at least for the interim. What would you like to see in terms of next steps in the next, say, 6 weeks to 2 months, in terms of where we go from here? And maybe that under item C in your agenda, we can talk about that in terms of our, you know, working with Tyche on some of this. But I think the next steps are a presentation at the town council. So probably should try to figure out when we want to be on the agenda to have a joint meeting. And then see what's your vision.
I would think, I don't know, as we need to go over it with the PZC first,
Well,
as a practice run or whatever. But I think as soon as we can get it to the town council, that's as soon as then we're in it for seriousness, and we'll start writing regs, I would imagine.
so the joint meeting, instead of having it take up time on your PZC agenda, could be for both the full commission and the council to look at this, or do you don't think we need to look at it with the commission separately, or probably not?
I guess not.
I mean, it's up to you. Oh, you were saying.
I mean, I
you'd
don't
like
think
that.
I don't think they're going to want to sit through it twice. So I agree.
Yeah.
A joint's probably the way to go. I'm sorry to say, speaking of getting on the agenda, I have a meeting with the town manager and I'm going to have to leave. We're trying to get on the agenda to save our jobs. So this is a big deal. So
Well, I think, Vera, you're not going to miss much, because electric vehicle charging stations was Paul's and he's not here. So I would recommend that be tabled. And the only other thing that we wanted to do is to just let you know that we are working with Tyche Policy and Planning. Jen has been spearheading that, and on getting the contract for the zoning rewrite and getting that process underway.
Good.
So, yep.
So are we essentially through with the survey?
We are essentially through. Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. I hope you feel better.
Thanks.
And I gather your party is not this afternoon.
No, it is. I'll be wearing a mask.
So will I.
Okay, that's good news for us.
I
but
can't
thanks.
hug anyone, but I'll be there.
Okay, so I
I
saw
might be
you
crying. I will
So-
be crying. I know myself. I will be crying.
well, if we'll try not
May
to
not be the only one.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It'll be a sob fest.
So then is it all right to adjourn this at 10:42?
Yep.
Thank you, Luann, for showing up. And I'm sorry about Paul. I'm sure he's distressed about this, but that's the way it is.
He'll be fine. So I texted him and said, we're gonna table EVs until the next meeting. So,
Okay, so adjourned.
all right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.